The divorce papers trembled in my hands, but not because I was afraid. Across the table, my husband sat beside the woman he had been seeing behind my back. Both of them looked completely certain they had won. He thought he was taking my dream home, my lifestyle, and everything I had spent years building. His mistress walked through the living room admiring the expensive furniture and designer decorations as if they already belonged to her. Then I said one sentence: "I am taking all my personal belongings with me." Neither of them smiled after what happened the next morning. My name is Victoria, and for 16 years I believed my husband Michael and I were building a future together. We met when we were young, struggled through difficult years, and eventually created a comfortable life in a beautiful home outside Chicago. At least, that is what I thought. Looking back now, I realize I was the one building while he was simply enjoying the results. I handled the business, managed investments, and spent countless nights working while he enjoyed the success that followed. Everything changed the evening I found a message on his phone. At first, it seemed harmless, but the more I read, the more my stomach tightened. There were hundreds of messages between him and a younger woman named Rachel. The conversations were intimate, detailed, and impossible to misunderstand. The betrayal felt like a physical blow. When I confronted him, he did not deny anything. Instead, he calmly admitted the affair and told me he wanted a divorce. The weeks that followed felt surreal. Michael acted as though our marriage had been nothing more than a temporary arrangement. He spoke confidently about moving on and starting a new life. Rachel was already appearing in public with him. Friends who once admired our relationship suddenly stopped calling. Rumors spread quickly, and many people assumed I would be devastated. What they did not know was that Michael had overlooked something very important. The house everyone admired had never actually belonged to him. Years earlier, when my business began growing rapidly, my attorney advised me to place several assets into a separate holding company. The property, the furnishings, and most of the luxury items inside the home were purchased through that company. Michael never paid attention to financial details. He assumed everything was jointly owned because he never bothered to ask questions. On the day the divorce was finalized, Michael could barely hide his excitement. Rachel arrived wearing a confident smile and immediately began discussing renovation ideas for the house. She walked from room to room, imagining her future there. Michael signed the final paperwork and leaned back in his chair with an expression that suggested he had already won. Before leaving, I looked directly at him and calmly said I would be taking all of my personal belongings. Both of them laughed. Rachel even joked that I would need several moving trucks. I simply smiled and wished them good luck. That night, professional movers arrived. Then another crew arrived, and another. By sunrise, nearly everything inside the property was gone. Every piece of furniture I had personally purchased, every artwork collection, every luxury appliance, every custom decoration. Even the dining set Rachel had been admiring the previous day disappeared. The company legally owned every item, and I owned the company. The next morning, Michael called me repeatedly. His voice sounded completely different from the confident man I had seen in the lawyer's office. He demanded an explanation and accused me of tricking him. I reminded him that every item had been documented, insured, and legally registered. Nothing had been taken improperly. I simply removed my property from a house that no longer belonged in my daily life. What happened next was even more satisfying. I politely declined. The greatest revenge was never taking anything from him. It was allowing him to experience the consequences of his own decisions. While he struggled to rebuild the life he had destroyed, I focused on creating a better future. My business continued growing. New opportunities appeared. Most importantly, I rediscovered a sense of peace that had been missing for years. Sometimes karma does not arrive with anger or revenge. Sometimes karma simply removes the illusion and forces people to face reality. And when that happens, empty houses tell no lies. Michael thought he was winning when he handed me those divorce papers. Rachel thought she was stepping into a luxury life built for her. But the moment the movers finished their work, the truth became impossible to ignore. They were never in love with each other. They were in love with a fantasy. And when that fantasy disappeared, so did everything else. Without the furnishings and expensive decorations, the home looked shockingly ordinary. Rachel, who had been captivated by the luxurious lifestyle, suddenly saw a very different reality. The image she had fallen in love with began disappearing before her eyes. Within days, arguments erupted between them. Friends later told me she complained constantly about the house feeling empty and unfinished. As tensions increased, financial problems surfaced. Michael had assumed he could maintain the lifestyle he enjoyed during our marriage. Unfortunately for him, much of that lifestyle had been funded by my business success and investment income. Expenses piled up. Expectations collided with reality. The dream they had imagined started falling apart faster than either of them expected. 3 months later, I received another phone call. This time, Michael sounded defeated. Rachel had left. The relationship that once seemed exciting had collapsed under pressure. He admitted he had made the biggest mistake of his life. He apologized repeatedly and asked whether we could meet to talk. For a moment, I felt sympathy. Then I remembered the lies, the betrayal, and the confidence with which he believed he could replace me.